Bandwidth for this podcast is brought to you by Ideate Software. Be sure to check out all of their great Revit applications designed to increase your productivity. I have pressed the record button, which means you are listening to BIM Thoughts, the premier podcast for BIM technology and techniques. Yeah, I just said it. You believe it because you're listening. So obviously it's true. We have the Carl Storms with us, as always, and the Dana DeFilippi is with us as well. Where Dana's like everywhere, same as Carl. Carl's everywhere too.
Carl started it.
Carl started it. What did he start?
Following in Carl's footsteps, you know.
Yeah, he's everywhere. Dana's got a YouTube channel now. People are at least watching the first few seconds of it to get a view count up.
Best name ever.
Best name ever. Yeah.
Good old Dynamo.
Dynamo BIM.
Dynamo BIM. We have a guest with us today, Blaine Grantham. So Blaine.
Yes.
Define yourself.
I, in a word, am a failed athlete. No, I'm a...
I'm failed in the sports ball?
Failed in the sports world. I tried really hard. No, I'm more of a construction technology guy. I've been around construction all my life, so
really, I
just love everything about construction. If I can build it, I want to learn how to do it. And if I can't build it, I'm going to find someone that knows how to do it so I can learn it.
Oh, I see. So you like to build stuff. You like to break stuff too, probably.
I think I like breaking stuff more than I like building stuff, to be quite honest. Yeah. Breaking is way more fun.
It is more fun. You always take things apart when you were a kid like I did?
My parents hated me. They buy me a toy, and the next thing I know, they have a hodgepodge of a toy built and assembled in the living room somewhere.
All over everywhere.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Rubik's Cube. You know, we took apart the Rubik's Cube just because I wanted to see what was inside, and I just kept doing it instead of really learning how to do it.
Yeah, were you disappointed with what was inside the Rubik's Cube?
Yeah, because it was a lot harder to put back together, that's for sure.
It was harder to put back together. Nowadays, I take things apart and I put them back together to try to get them back together right.
I attempt that. Typically, I'm successful at cars.
Yes.
Cabinetry.
Yes.
And computers.
Computers, yes.
After that, I think we have a really steep declining slope on what I'm successful.
Really?
Yeah.
I replaced a battery in an Apple Watch the other day.
Now that's amazing. Those things are tiny inside.
They are tiny inside. I use the iFixit kit. Watch the little step-by-step.
Does that void your warranty?
It was out of warranty. It was the Series 1 Apple Watch. I thought, what do I have to lose except the house with it burning down?
Yeah.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
iFixit. That company, I have to say, they have an amazing market. I mean, I've even fixed an iPhone at one point in my life because I cracked a screen and I just didn't want to pay the $100 to fix it. You know, those pesky screens, you could drop it on a pillow and it'd break at one point. So
I dropped my iPhone X at Built in Seattle on the tile floor in the bathroom.
Oh.
First screen I broke on an iPhone, and I've had the iPhone since the very first iPhone, the first day.
And I think one of the first fix-its I ever used for iPhone was I took just Scotch tape, you know, the packing tape, put over the screen so it wouldn't break anymore. You could still use it. It was amazing. Right. I had it for at least 2 or 3 weeks till I actually fixed it.
So what I did in Seattle is I left the conference, found a cell phone store, which was Verizon, and bought the cover that you put on it, the glass cover, to put on the top of the phone so that I could at least use the phone and not cut my face open when I talked on it.
I was a little worried about cutting my jugular when on one of those phones because you're kind of holding it on because you're walking around like Bill or at his university. You got you got your phone kind of tucked on your shoulder because you have all of your headphones are packed in your backpack somewhere, so you can't get to them. And then you're shaking hands, you're holding coffee or other drinks of some sort, and you could eventually lose your life that way.
And before you know it, you're filling up somebody's red wine.
Exactly.
Yeah, not good.
A little extra.
Yeah. I'd ruin my whole Christmas. You only have to cut your jugular once to really ruin a Christmas.
Just once. All it takes is
Just
one time.
once. That's right. All it takes is one time.
Wow. Well, that was a much different squirrel than we usually get trapped on down the road.
You like that squirrel?
We chased it pretty well.
I'm the king of squirrels.
Yeah, I mean, I like calling it chasing the rabbit, and boy, we really chased the rabbit on that one.
We did. So bring us back home, Carl. Ask a question or two.
Well, I was going to say that Blaine sort of told us what he likes to do. He described himself, but he didn't really say what he does day to day. Nowadays. So what is it that you do to put the lights on? I guess, as they like to say, keep the lights on.
So how I pay my bills? That's always the good question, right? So I am a part owner, half owner of a company called a Titan AEC. My business partner, Shobit Badkar. I think most people know who Shobit are if they're listening to this podcast. We've kind of built this company from ground up, and we're heavily involved in construction, architecture, and the owner side, just in a means of providing BIM services as the simple term. But I mean, as everyone on this podcast knows, there's a lot more to BIM than just, the flashy lights and the cool renderings and the wonderful software. So a lot of our team right now, just kind of give you an idea of what we're doing, is we work live on projects with contractors and architects. Some of our bigger projects are LAX. We're working on that. We've had the distinct pleasure of working on the Korean Air Tower in LA. That was actually one of our first projects. So we worked with a few different firms on that, developing the BIM on that building and helping kind of develop the planning side of it on the concrete pour, which was pretty awesome for that 36 hours it happened. We've been doing laser scanning, I think, since laser scanners were less than 100 pounds. So we started doing that laser scanning portion of it internally, which was fun to learn. And that's kind of what I head up now. And then other ways I pay my bills is basically doing a little bit of consulting here and there with firms that need it. So if firms looking to move forward in this BIM and VDC and they reach out, we'll help them kind of get a grapple on it and see what we could do to make them better.
So you say you're doing a lot of airports. Did you fall into doing airports, or was that where you wanted to do, where the projects your company wanted to do?
I think every project we kind of fall into. In the airport, we kind of landed softly into that one. But
were your tables up and they're in lock position?
We had the landing gear down, tray tables up. Everyone was buckled in as we came in for a nice soft landing initially, and then got a little rough in the end. But no, I think it was funny because the airport thing came about just because of kind of our knowledge base. We expanded kind of what we're doing. We're getting into some different techniques, some different organizational techniques, and how we leverage BIM. And we're kind of just drug into it by a few of our long-term clients as they started to pick up some work at the airport. They got tapped on the shoulder and we're asked, hey, can you help us manage this whole BIM process? And we were like, yeah. As everyone knows, you always say yes. Never say no.
Say yes.
Always say yes. And you just figure it out as you go as much as possible. And we're really good at figuring things out as we go. But in this case, I think we had a good plan together on how we wanted to tackle it. So we got brought on board as a partner in the bid process. And then we won the bid with Austin Commercial, and we've been kind of working with them ever since.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago, you always say yes. Unless you've done it once and didn't like it, then you can say no.
Yeah. And sometimes if you can't say no, other times you're just like, I got to do it again. I'll do it better this time.
I'll do it. Did I really not like that as much as I thought?
I really didn't like it.
When you're talking earlier, you said something about 36 hours.
Oh, yeah.
What is that? Tell me more.
Oh, so this is kind of like the highlight. This is the feather in the cap for our company, which was we were part of a Guinness Book of World Records.
Really?
Believe it or not.
But not anymore, or are you still in there?
Well, I'm hoping we're still in there, but with some of the new construction that's happening, we may be kicked out of that record here pretty soon. So the Korean Air Tower, which used to be the old Wilshire Grand Hotel in downtown LA, is the tallest building, they said, west of Chicago at the moment. we had a mat slab pour, and that mat slab pour lasted 36 hours straight in order to pour the mat slab for that project. So that's kind of where our like feather in the cap comes from. The Guinness Book of World Records, they're out there. They certified it. It was a feat, especially in downtown LA, because we were quartering off traffic. And we had to sequence basically how these trucks full of concrete were going to come into the site and which pump they're going to go to, how long it was going to take to offload that concrete, and then move them out of the site. So we had this almost like a parade, a procession of concrete trucks coming down to enter this very small site to kind of drop off this concrete load. And 36 hours is a long time. We did not stay out there the full 36 hours because I think my feet would have fell asleep. But Shobit was able to go out there and spend some more time out there than I was. But it was a heck of a feat for that construction team to do.
I bet. And I used to do casino architecture work. I think they did a floor a week is usually the going rate for putting up hotel towers.
They fast.
Pour those, which is kind of fun. I got to go up in one of those, not when they were pouring, but during construction. It's like you get up so high, and then all of a sudden the scaffolding starts again, and all the supports start again, and it gets up a little higher and higher. And then they will pour the floor, and then they'll remove a floor of scaffolding and move it up a little bit as they go up, I guess. But it's quite fun and scary when you're 40 stories up and as much scaffolding holding up the floor above you.
Yes. Yeah. We had a distinct privilege of being on top of the Korean Air building pretty much as they were getting prepared to put the glazing on the outside or cladding the building. And we're all the way up at the top floor. I got a funny story for that too. We're at the top floor, and they don't have any guardrails. You basically have your safety rail, which is basically angle iron and some aircraft cable that kind of wraps around the edge of the building to prevent people from falling off. And we're able to kind of look over the side. The funny part was our business development manager, Randy. He's in the elevator with us. Now, everyone has seen a construction site, and the elevators that you use aren't ones that aren't on the inside of the building. They're on the outside.
Right.
So it's basically this cage, like a bird cage you're sitting in, and it creaks and it rattles.
You got to sit?
Well, I think Randy wanted to sit at this point, but and unbeknownst to us at the time, we didn't know Randy had this fear of heights.
Yeah,
and
he probably didn't know it either.
Yeah, I don't think he knew it either. Because as soon as we got in this elevator, we started going up, and we're talking 70 stories, and we're going all the way to the top. And we started moving up, and next thing I know, Randy's moving away from the edge of the elevator. Pretty soon he's standing directly in the middle of the elevator. His eyes are closed, and he doesn't want to look down because the floor too is perforated, so you can see.
Oh yeah,
you can see through the floor too. So as he's with his eyes closed, I'm kind of leaning up against the side rail. I'm like, "Hey, Randy, why don't you come check this out?" He's like, "No, I'm good.
No, I'm good.
I'm okay. I'm just fine right where I'm at." But that whole ride up, and these things aren't fast. They're not like the one you ride in now, where it's 30 seconds you're at the top. We were cruising in that thing probably a good 5 to 10 minutes. Plus, we had to stop every now and then to pick up some of the workers and take them up to another floor. So Randy had the distinct pleasure of enjoying that ride for a lot longer than he wanted to. That was pretty fun. That was a good day there. That was a good day to see that work being completed.
I had the same experience at Cosmo going to the 50th floor. And stopping every now and then to let in workers, and then we got to one floor, and the guy had a one of those big rolling trash can things, so we all had to scoot towards the end of the elevator, and then he got the cart in. He only went up a couple floors, and then he took a cart, and everybody scrambled back to the middle. Yeah. And those elevators aren't smooth either.
No, you can feel them shift a little bit.
Yes, you can.
And it's not like a shift like up and down. You feel a shift from side to side. That's probably the most, like when your stomach does that flip, like you're an Olympic diver at that point, when you start feeling that thing shake from side to side.
Mm-hmm. And it's the side to side of the same direction as the building.
Yes.
Not the back and forth away.
Yeah.
That got me. Oh, Dana, have you been in one of those elevators?
No, I wish I had. And unfortunately, I haven't traveled in more than a year. So, even if I wanted to, I probably couldn't.
No, construction elevators are... when you get the opportunity to get in a construction elevator to go up really high, take that opportunity. It's a fun experience.
I would love to.
I mean, Disney should market that ride.
Yeah. Like, they could call it like the Tower of Terror.
Yeah. Truly a Tower of Terror.
So, what softwares do you use?
Oh my goodness gracious. We're going to get to this one.
What's your favorite softwares? Which ones do you use the most?
Yeah. So first I'll say this, because I'm going to I'll get punched by Shob if I don't. We are very much software agnostic. I mean,
of course.
That term is being thrown around a lot today, and we truly are. We use whatever works for our client and us at any time. But of course, we use Autodesk software primarily on the design side, just like most everyone. But I do like what I'm seeing from some of these other contenders entering the ring. Like Brixis CAD is starting to look pretty good. They're starting to develop some tools, which is nice to see. Of course, Vectorworks is always in there. They're trying to increase and better their software.
Vectorworks is there. I tried Vectorworks out for a weekend.
Yeah, give it a spin. Give it a spin every now and then, see where they're at. Of course, MicroStation's there, but I think for them on the civil side, they got a pretty good lock on it. So we're really primarily Autodesk, but there are these collaboration tools now that are coming out from other companies that have just made our lives a lot better. I know, Dana, you love Dynamo. I kind of stay away from Dynamo for the most part. If I can't do it,
why?
If I can't do it with the software, I don't want to write code to do it. But I'll let someone else do it for me.
Really coding?
No,
I think you need to subscribe to Dynamo BIM.
I think I should subscribe. Isn't that the best plug ever? No, so we've been using lots of different collaboration tools. BinTrack is one that we're using currently on the airport, and it's helped us a ton, especially with the conversation around BIM and items that need to be done. We leveraged that. We're working with things like iConstruct and Sherlock, Flypaper. We work with 3D softwares like Unity and Unreal, which, I mean, I'm still in a toss up of which one I like better. I like leveraging both depending on the client or who I'm working with there. As it concerns kind of the point cloud side, we're kind of a Pharaoh house at the moment. I say at the moment, but we could always utilize something different, and we're utilizing Scene and Build It as a means of doing quality checks for construction. So we go scan something out in the field, we'll pull it in to Build It and compare it against the model and see where things are out of tolerance and see kind of what we need to do to document that for our clients. Let's see, what other software are we using? Microsoft is kind of our go-to for everything else. So, we still have to communicate one way or another. So we're utilizing Teams as a means for communication between our team and exterior teams. So that's always something that I think we kind of lose sight of, is we have all this cool technology to build these buildings, but we're still using email to talk to each other, or texting each other if you're lucky enough to get someone's personal cell phone. And I've always kind of scratched my head in this industry for as long as I've been doing this, is why can't we just talk to each other through a means that we can all get on, instead of having this like language gap? I think we tried like things like, I think it was Trello was nice when they came out. We had some of these other softwares and tools like If you're a gamer, you probably used Discord or something at some point to do that conversation back and forth. But it's so disconnected from the things that we do. And IT people hate that stuff. So we're trying to find new ways of communicating besides just sending email and making it simple, like WebEx and Citrix. Those things are tools we use and we like them, but I think we've finally kind of settled on Teams. I think we're good with Teams. I don't know, anyone else here been using Teams? Like it, love it, hate it?
I'm starting to get used to Teams.
I really like Teams.
Yeah, it's fun. Planner's just like Trello.
Yeah, yes it is.
And Teams is fun.
I the nice thing about Planner is that it can tie into Microsoft Project. So when I'm developing our project schedule, I can then assign those tasks over in Planner, which is really nice not to have to double up that work and still maintain a more concise schedule. Of course, I'm still looking at, how do we get P6 to integrate a little bit better for that? But it's always interesting when you step outside of one silo of software like Microsoft into something else and see how well they talk together. But I mean, we kind of get that within Autodesk software.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did I take that rabbit a little too far?
No.
With that rabbit, as we chase it down the road, you mentioned that you do a lot of the scanning stuff now.
Yeah.
What I didn't hear in your list of all the great softwares you put there is, what do you use for? You mentioned you're mostly a Faro house, but what are you using for your visualization? Are you using anything like Cintu or something like that to help with your point cloud use?
Yeah, so let's talk about point clouds a little bit. So
let's.
The one thing about point clouds, and this is something we always have to discuss with our clients that we're working with, is these things are large, depending on kind of what you're trying to capture. And to kind of give a perspective, we just got done scanning probably a good 120,000 square feet or more at the airport. When it's all said and done, all that data combined is probably going to be somewhere around like 15 to 16 gigs total. So I think we were having a little fun discussion about how much hard drive space we have. That's basically what we've got to upload somewhere and have it viewable by our client in some level or some form. So some of the software that we use for the visualization side is, Cintu is one of the ones that I've been looking at pretty much since it started, and we've done some tests with it, and I love what they've done with it, especially now that you can incorporate the design models into it. You can parse that data out, cut it, slice it, export it out into smaller sections to consume. The fact that you can build out 3D mesh models from it, it looks wonderful, easy to navigate. So I do like Cintu.
And it ties in with BIMTrack, just to throw that out there.
Yes, it does tie in with BIMTrack. So there's some things that have come on board with Cintu that I really like. We use WebShare, which is by Faro, so it's a server base. It's similar to Cintu, except it doesn't have all the extra cool features, but it is a very simple interface for people who just don't want to get in there and view it like a model. They want to kind of view the scans as you've done them, take measurements, and potentially see a 3D point cloud on top of that. And WebShare works great, specifically since it's tied to Faro and it's works with our Scene software. It makes the job of uploading that and getting that into a medium where our clients can see it very quickly for us. That's nice. As long as you have a good upload speed on your uphill pipe there, because trying to do off a cell phone on site is not going to work very well. But we've also looked at other software too. Of course, we've looked at Trimble solutions. We've looked at Cyclone and a few others. But I think Cintu and WebShare are really good. But I know there's new ones out there, and I'm really excited to see what these guys come up with and how they go through this data for you. In fact, a lot of the registration can happen in the cloud now, which is really awesome because I spend hours parsing through it to try to get these things to line up properly and make sure that the scans that we've done are accurate. So if that speeds up, then you'll see me dancing a jig at the next AU for sure.
Now, do you ever bring that stuff into Revit? Like, are you ever using it as to create models from, or is it more for clash validation and for bring in and just see this is what we thought they were going to build, this is what they have? Do you use it in that format as well?
All of the above. We've
Nice.
we've had the distinct pleasure of utilizing the data, chopping it up in every which way we can. So validation, creation, even visualization. So one of the major ones that we utilize it for is really kind of like our own work. So if we're tasked with providing as-builts for a company and they want to get some really accurate understanding of what's in the ceiling space or what that floor flatness is or where the steel's located after a demo, we'll scan it and then we utilize that base scan to generate models out of. And there's a couple tools out there that help us kind of generate that model from the scan point clouds themselves. And not to say, for the most part, they do a fairly good job, but there are some things that they just aren't good at dealing with. So you kind of have to do it manually. But even then, I mean, it's almost like we're playing the tracing game. Like when we were kids, we want to be an artist, you put a piece of vellum over the top and just start tracing things out, and it'll give you a good, accurate understanding of what's out there. One of the biggest things that we kind of realized, like with Revit, is if you've been in a construction site and if you've kind of seen the evolution of construction, there's never a point where I see anything as straight and plumb. So always a wall has a cant, or it's not quite 90 degrees. There's always a wobble to it. One of the fun things to show clients is you have this really long straight wall. That's a 5-inch steel stud wall, and you can see it waving all the way down as it's kind of routing down the corridor. So everyone thinks it's always going to be perfectly plumb, and that's really kind of hard to do, especially on these longer portions of steel stud walls, because it's just that you just don't get it that way unless you have a robot out there. And even a robot, depending on the heat and what's going on the site, it could change. So having that in your model, trying to make that wall wave, usually isn't exactly what you want to do. So you kind of have to normalize those things, so that way when you do produce that as-built and hand that over to the client, the owner, the architect, the contractor, at least it's something they can see, it's recognizable. And then we just kind of add some notes saying, hey, not quite plumb, a little out plumb. So be ready for that.
Nice. Do you get into using anything like Verity from our friends over at ClearEdge 3D? Shout out to Kelly Cohn.
Well, it's funny. I was just on they had a webinar today about some dirty data. Which
Scan to BIM University?
Yeah, Scan to BIM University. So we have looked at Verity. We have used and tried Verity on a lot of this, and I think they got an excellent product. I think what they're doing is great. Most of the time, we're really just we just go as fast as we can. And luckily for us, we do have a staff of just amazing BIM technologists that can just kind of take this stuff and run with it. So I don't have to, which is, awesome. But they can hammer this stuff out so fast. But, utilizing Verity and some of these other tools, even Faro has a built-in tool now that can help generate this modeling information. So you have build it, and then you have as built. So as built basically takes these point clouds and then starts generating families from it too, which is, boggles my mind, is that we can now start making families, like window families and door families, from the scan to be placed right back into Revit with these point clouds, which is awesome. It's just that extra step of trying to get something that you may need in construction later on, or to convey a message down to the contractor on site. Like, hey, this is how we need to be built. We need to match some of this existing information. I don't know if anyone was on that webinar today, but a friend of mine who was part of that, he's rebuilding his house and he wants to match some of the existing architecture from way back when. So the only way really to know what that is, you have to laser scan it, so that way they can kind of match it. So this is all hand built stuff. And in order to get the lights correct based off of the windows, the sashes, and understanding how that's constructed, you gotta have to kind of get up close and personal, record it, and see if they can manufacture it off site. If you want to save some money, if you want to pay someone a whole lot more, hire a good carpenter, which I don't have a problem with. Those guys are amazing to watch work and do what they do. My dad was one. he's kind of the one that got me on the construction bug. And then my dad's dad, my grandfather, was a carpenter, which is kind of why I like doing the stuff I do now. Is I want to see how it's built. I want to see how it's done. I mean, these guys can build amazing stuff with their hands. Now we're using computers to do it before they go out in the field and pre-manufacture it with robots. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes not so great. depends on the data. Garbage in, garbage out, as the old saying, as one would, right?
Absolutely. And I think you hit on a good topic that's come up a few times here on BIM Thoughts, is the idea of, you mentioned, pay a little bit more and have that journeyman carpenter, that craftsman, come out and recreate that woodwork they need for his house. And one of the things that we've talked about a couple times, whether it's be about automation and like Dynamo or robots. We had Brian Ringley on here from Boston Dynamic. One of the things that all this stuff is allowing to automate and take the boring out of our work, and what BIM I think was intended to do, is giving us the ability to bring the craft back into what we do. It's no longer just drawing lines or making boxes, because all of the things like automating room names and tags and making sheets, we can now put that aside and let the software do that, and we can now bring the craft back into what we do. Are you seeing real evidence of that from your end?
I do, and on some of the projects, and some I can't talk about or provide names to, you're starting to see designers getting back to being designers instead of documenters, where you have to document everything, because the software kind of handles that for you. So we can focus on the design of something that brings some pleasure to the demographic, the area, and I think we got to a point in construction where we were just building as many boxes as we could in these cities and in some of these towns, where we just had to put that in. We had to get that space up. We had to replace some of the older architecture. It was falling down, or we had major disasters that forced things to have to go to. You have to have that boom to kind of get things in place, so you have the services for the people that live in those cities. And now we're kind of seeing this charge back to the design, where we're looking at integrating architecture in a way that fits in with the city or the people in the city, and providing some joy in what we look at every day. I mean, I go to LA, New York, and some of these larger cities, and I'm in awe of what I see because of how just large these superstructures are, like how big we can build, like the engineering feats that we can do. But I'm just as in awe in some of the things that I see, like museums, or I see schools that are really trying to create an environment that's warm, that kind of, it makes you want to stay there to look at the details and see what else you can pick out. Like, wow, that's amazing. How did they do that? I've been fortunate enough to see some of these guys work in concrete. I know concrete's boring, but these guys are working this technique called shotcrete. And if you're not familiar with it, it's just a way of taking concrete and spraying it onto wiring or rebar mesh, and then shaping it in order to give it something other than just a flat, vertical look. They're making very organic shapes with essentially a structural concrete. And the craftsmanship that these guys can bring is amazing. Now, how they get there is leveraging technology, utilizing total stations, defining those profiles, and getting those things set up. So when the guys come on site and they start to work this concrete, they know what those tolerances are. They know where they need to take that edge to. They know what that curvature is going to be. But it allows them to actually, perform that art. And I see art in construction. I see art in architecture, of course. I even see art in engineering. So I do see us kind of returning back to, putting in that design, working with that art, and making things that are just better in this place. I know that was pretty sappy.
Yes, but we certainly like better, and I think that everyone would agree that that's where we got into what we're doing. We like the tech, but we also like the design. Another frequent topic here is, that we're all makers at heart. So, being able to design however you do it, what you love, I think makes everybody's job a little more enjoyable.
Well, absolutely. Anyone that's in construction or even in the technology field, you want to build something better. We always want to build better. I know that myself and my business partner, Shobit, when we looked at kind of splitting off from the kind of like the reseller channel years ago, I think this was back in 2008, is kind of when, we were really kind of focusing on like, hey, let's do something better. We really wanted to help enable our clients to do what they do well and not have to worry about trying to figure out something that was going to kind of get in their way. Like software was getting in people's way. We're moving so fast with software, especially from Autodesk and from MicroStation, on the ability that they could help you design, but it was complex. I mean, I don't know if everyone remembers utilizing Architectural Desktop or AutoCAD for architecture. I mean, the tools were there to be very efficient with what you wanted to do and let the software do the work for you. But it was so difficult to kind of standardize that, to make that work for you. And we worked really hard on trying to simplify that for our customers so they can utilize a tool that was actually a BIM tool, but it wasn't called BIM then, until Autodesk kind of coined that term. I think everyone kind of made fun of the whole Revit term because we thought it was like every Autodesk technologist was just a frog saying Revit, Revit, Revit all the time. So I think we've all kind of been there because everyone wanted to say, hey, Revit's better. And that's kind of what that team did, is they wanted to create something better. And that's the same thing that we want to do. We wanted to make things easier. We wanted to provide them the ability to do what they do best, do what they love. At the same time, we're doing what we love. We like to get into the nooks and crannies of software and dissect it and learn it, and then kind of share that knowledge. So I absolutely agree with you on that.
Nice. Well, Dana, it's getting to be that time of the episode where you swoop in with your final thought.
My final thought would be, with a handle like Notorious BIM, you should definitely know Dynamo.
Okay.
Both on Instagram and Twitter, I may add. So yes. He's very easy to find.
Very easy.
And I shall look for Notorious BIM as a subscriber of mine very soon.
So there's actually a story behind that too. And dirty little secret, I do work with Dynamo. I have to work with it constantly on one of the projects we're on. So, and we had someone kind of come into our office and help us with that. And I've known him for a really long time. I think everyone knows this guy. He's just super, super famous in the Dynamo world. Anybody have a guess?
The Dynamaniac, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been kind of working with Dynamo for a long time, but Notorious BIM. So maybe someday when you catch me at AU, when we're able to actually be there in person again, which hopefully will be not this year, but next year, I can kind of give you the backstory on how all that happened, because I've had that since Twitter was actually conceived. So that's been my handle for a long time.
Well, I figure, I mean, if you were the person that was able to obtain it,
yes,
must have been a while ago.
There are many that have been utilizing a similar handle. That is for sure.
That was my final thought. But I am glad that you are using Dynamo. That's amazing. Maybe we can not only at the next time we go to AU or see each other at whatever conference, we may be able to ride a construction elevator together and talk Dynamo.
Yes.
2 birds.
I think that would be great if we had a after party. If one of the vendors got an after party where you had to go in a construction elevator up in order to get to the after party.
You know what? I may have to look into that. Maybe my firm will have to bring back an AU after party like we used to.
Right.
But doing a construction site. The good old days.
Like the good old days. All right. I'm going to hold you to it. One of these years, we're going to be able to do that.
I have some contacts. We'll see what we can make happen.
Okay. Even if it's only up like 10 floors, we can just ride the thing up and down 10 times. Say we went up 100.
There we go.
Yeah,
a lot better than that darn wheel over there at the Skylink, right?
Right. Yeah, that's so yesterday.
Who does that anyway? Just ride around in a slow circle.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Well, they do have bars in them, so.
True, but you have to stand up the whole time, which is okay. But
which is all right. Well, you bring. Now we know we can bring chairs.
Yeah. Well, we'll bring the attached chairs. You know, the ones that strap to your legs. Whenever you sit down, the seat just flops out, and you just sit
automatic.
Down.
Yeah, the automatic chairs.
Yeah,
I like it.
I'm gonna bring that to AU.
Yeah, I'm surprised Kelly Cohn hasn't shown up with one of those chairs strapped on.
Hoverboard, a chair.
Hoverboard, chair. And the drink hat.
The drink hat. I think everyone should have a drink hat at AU for whatever drink they want to partake in.
Because they could be hard hats.
They could. In fact, I would prefer a hard hat, just in case you fell down off your hoverboard and your chair didn't work. We could
just 3D print the drink holders for hard hats.
Yeah, that's going to be a requirement. If you have a hoverboard at AU, you must have your own PPE, which is a hard hat with a drink carrier.
Right. Excellent. Because if you just keep drinking, then you don't have to have your mask on.
That's right. Just keep the straw in your mouth. Never take it out.
Keep the straw in the mouth. All right. Thank you so much, Blaine, for being on BIM Thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
I learned a lot. It was a lot of fun.